Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia, and welcome back to the Battle of Yiling Let's Talk Lore series as we continue with episode 3 titled Wu's Defense. Now the last episode ended as Liu Bei sent his cousin-in-law, General Wu Ban, as the forward vanguard to retake the Wushan region from the Wu forces led by General Li Yi. And after a swift victory which pushed back the Wu forces to Zigui, Liu Bei and roughly 30,000 troops mobilized for war as they would march alongside the south bank of the Yangtze River, while General Huang Quan took another 10,000 troops north to secure the main army's flank from any potential attack from Wei. In addition to the 40,000 troops committed by Liu Bei also hoped to receive additional reinforcements from the Five Valley tribes in Wuling, as Ma Liang was sent as the envoy there to meet with the Five Valley chieftain, Sha Mo Ke, where he hoped to buy their loyalty with gold. Faced with this attack, Sun Quan quickly responded by naming General Lu Xun as the Da Dudu, or the director of the officers, for this campaign, while Generals Zhu Ran, Pan Zhang, Han Dang, Xu Sheng, and Sun Huan were assigned to him with a total troop count of 50,000 to resist the Shu Han advances. At this time, Sun Quan also wrote to Cao Pi to inform the Wei court of this military operation, as Sun Quan was technically a vassal of the kingdom of Wei. Cao Pi would end up writing back with an encouraging letter wishing the Wu forces good fortune against Liu Bei's army, and hope that they can eliminate many enemies in the battles to come. No attempts to reinforce the Wu armies were made, as behind the scene, the Wei court did not believe Sun Quan's vassalage was genuine, as he kept refusing to send over his son as a hostage, and plans to attack Wu across 3 fronts were already in the works. But before we get there, the Battle of Yiling still awaits us, as Lu Xun's first order of business as the Da Dudu of this campaign was to retreat. Arguing with his officers that the Shu Han forces are eager for a decisive showdown, and with the elevation working to their advantage as they will be attacking downhill, it is in the Wu forces' best interest to avoid Liu Bei's attack for the time being. This plan was not unanimously agreed upon by the Wu Army Corps, as many of the Wu officers believed that the narrow mountain pass between Zigui and Yidao formed a natural defensive position where they could set up multiple defensive choke points to blunt Liu Bei's attack. But through patient persuasion, Lu Xun was able to convince the Wu generals to retreat, as they ended up voluntarily giving up the mountains to set up their defense along Yidao and Xiaoting, which is where the mountains ended. And with Liu Bei starting his advance in January of 222, for the next month, the Shu Han forces would advance without any resistance until they hit the city of Xiaoting, which sat at the end of the mountain ranges, where the Wu forces finally set up their defense between the cities of Xiaoting and Yidao, farther down to the south, effectively blocking access to the Yangtze River that divided these two cities. So whereas the 50,000 Wu forces could now stretch out across the open fields connecting these two cities, Liu Bei's 40,000 strong army, as they ended up receiving 10,000 additional troops from Sha Mo Ke, now had to make multiple camps in between the narrow mountain passes in between Xiaoting and Yiling, as there was simply not enough room for the constructions of bigger camps to house Liu Bei's forces in a more concentrated manner. Then for the next 4 months, Lu Xun forbid his generals to answer any of Shu Han's challenges, as they were told to remain garrisoned inside their respective encampments or cities, as Lu Xun did not believe their force could match Liu Bei's army on the open field, as he hoped his turtle-up defense would frustrate the Shu Han forces and eventually wear them down. Seeing that Lu Xun had no intention to fight out on the open field, Liu Bei knew he needed to force their hands. So he sent General Zhang Nan, who was a Xu province officer, that had served Liu Bei ever since Tao Qian's death to sneak a sizable force south through the Yi River to siege the city of Yidao, which was defended at the time by General Sun Huan, who was Sun Quan's cousin. If you're wondering, Sun Huan's father, Sun He, was the son of Sun Jian's cousin, and we had previously mentioned him briefly in our Sun Quan lore series, as Sun He had served in both Sun Jian and Sun Ce's armies, but unfortunately died while investigating the assassination of Sun Quan's younger brother, Sun Yi, as Sun Yi's guards ended up killing him while trying to deflect blame for the assassination. Regardless of his lineage, by this time, even though Sun Huan was only 25 years old, he had already proven himself in the armies in the campaign against Guan Yu alongside Lu Meng, where his unit ambushed a group of Guan Yu's troops trying to flee north through Huarong Pass, as he was able to capture 5,000 troops and countless military supplies, horses, and livestock. Therefore, when Sun Huan's messengers reached the main camp with news that Yidao was now under siege and requested for reinforcements immediately, most of the Wu generals rushed to ready their troops. But despite the fact that Sun Huan was popular in the army and a relative of Sun Quan, Lu Xun forbid them to go, as he ordered everyone to stand down and remain garrisoned at their respective positions. Lu Xun argued that Yidao was well stocked with supplies, and given Sun Huan's abilities, just holding out should be no problem, as their main task is to avoid any direct confrontation with the Shu Han forces. Seeing that Lu Xun was willing to abandon Sun Huan, Liu Bei had to come up with another plan while the siege of Yidao continued. This time, General Wu Ban was given just 2,000 men, as he was ordered to make camp just outside of Lu Xun's main camp, hoping that this juicy target would entice the Wu forces to finally leave their encampments, as behind the mountain passes were 8,000 ambush troops ready to reinforce Wu Ban at the first sign of trouble. But once again, Lu Xun ignored the Shu Han forces, as the Wu army simply refused to leave their defensive positions, no matter how much the Shu Han forces taunted them outside. Now, if you're wondering why the Shu Han forces did not try to siege any of the Wu positions, then you have to consider two factors. First, the terrain favored the Wu defense, as they essentially panned out in a straight line at the edge of the mountain and the plain divide. And with troop counts in Wu's favor, if the Shu Han army ever tried to concentrate their forces and commit too hard at attacking one point in this line, then the Wu armies could all sally out and hit you mid-siege. And if you tried to attack all the positions at once, then you wouldn't have enough manpower to actually win these sieges. Which is why Yidao, being the last point on this line, was really the only place that Liu Bei could siege, as the enemy reinforcements could only come from one predictable direction. And the second point is that Liu Bei can't actually commit all his troops to fight, as space simply didn't allow it. At this time, there was over 50 Shu Han camps set up between Yiling and Xiaoting, stretching miles apart. Initially, these camps were placed near the Yangtze River, as the army stayed near their naval forces. But as the calendar turned to June, the scorching heat and the blazing sun made it impossible for the army to continue to camp near the river, as the open shores didn't provide any shade. So instead, the Shu Han army was forced to move their main camps farther inland, where they now set up new camps under the thick canopies of the forest in order to hide out from the heat. Little did they know that Lu Xun was waiting precisely for this moment, as the Wu counterattack was only days away. And with this, we'll end our episode here, as we'll return next time with the devastating Wu counterattack that will burn away Shu Han's most veteran forces, as Liu Bei's dream of revenge will be dashed away in the mountain passes of Yiling. So hopefully you all enjoyed this episode enough to drop a like to help support the channel, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!